I woke up one morning and I had a Facebook message from an old friend that I knew from club promoting. Basically, we had gone out together, and he knew a little bit that I played piano and keyboard, and he asked me if I would do them the honor to join them for this massive show that they had, this massive concert that they had opening up for Martha Davis and the Motels in Lake Arrowhead. And suddenly I'm put in this position where I accept the offer to play this show. And I had never played piano, keyboard, maybe in front of more than 3 or 4 people. So I went in a week, had to learn the entire band's repertoire, come up with new parts for myself, and then play in front of thousands of people a week later after accepting that offer.
That's so insane. That was the first time you'd done all that stuff.
Absolutely,
And
yeah.
From there,
just
this is like 6.5 years ago.
catapulted.
Now you're still playing
Yeah.
keyboard with this guy.
Yeah.
I'm Dr. Larry Burchett, and as I see every day in the ER, life can change in a moment. Here on the show, we tell the stories that matter most, after which life is never the same. We got a great guest for you today, Matt Wallerstein.
Wallerstein, yeah, that's the one.
Esquire. Entertainment lawyer and musician.
Yes.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you
So
very
great
much,
to have
Larry.
you.
It's great to be here.
So we met at one of these dinners.
Yes.
What was that thing?
Meeting of the Masters. Actually, they had a brunch yesterday that I participated in. So
You made the cut. They had me on the one and said, we're done with this guy.
Well, this one they've converted me now from a guest to a volunteer. So I was actually working the bar for fun, which is a very different experience, but I know my way around a bar.
You're moving up on the strata. That was a fun dinner.
It was really fun, yeah.
And I remember meeting you and I was like, who's this guy? Oh, he's an entertainment lawyer. Oh, he's a musician. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Professional guy, and
I
thought you were a
like
cool
to
dude. So.
Yeah, well, likewise, Larry, likewise. Yeah.
Glad to have you on the show.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, and then let's get into your moment.
Yeah, absolutely. So currently, as you mentioned, I'm both an entertainment lawyer and a musician. On the entertainment law side, I represent writers, producers, directors, and actors in TV and film. And that's just all transactional, don't do any litigation. And then on the music side, I play keys and sing and songwrite in a project called Kingdoms that has a little Danish O with the slash in the middle.
Fancy.
Yeah, very fancy. As my whole aesthetic is just pure fanciness, so I think that's reflective of that. And I also do some solo stuff musically in a project called Vanity Shades, which is also the name of my Instagram.
I was going to say, that's your Instagram.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to sort all of this stuff out for us. And
exactly.
I'm wondering how you do both. How do you have time for all this stuff, lawyer and musician?
It's a great question, and it kind of boils down to you always find time to do the things that you love, and I've always had a passion for music, although when I get into my moment, I'll sort of explain how this did kind of arise later in my life and my professional career as well. But yeah, you find time for the things that you have passion for. And I'm just very structured and disciplined about keeping my entertainment law and music life separate, so that when I finish the day as an entertainment lawyer, I go into the studio with my bandmate and we have wonderful creative sessions that really allow me to both decompress from the entertainment law stuff and have that beautiful creative outlet.
I was going to say, that's great balance. It sounds like it goes together. When you initially,
it does.
I was initially hearing like lawyer, musician. Gosh, that sounds like double the work. But the way that it works for you is, you said, decompresses the law.
Absolutely. And yeah, it's on the law side, there's a lot of tension-filled conversations on a daily basis. Sometimes you're at odds. And yeah, it's just to participate in something that's so participatory and communal. The experience with my bandmate of coming up with new songs and creating music and just tapping into that like current of energy in that moment is just a wonderful way to just like root into the present and kind of maybe shove some of the things that were more difficult during the day aside.
Cope.
Yeah,
As a lawyer.
coping. You
Yeah.
need those coping mechanisms.
That's fascinating. They're so different.
They are,
Right?
but
I mean,
y-
they're not. Are there some similarities, or it just as you're describing it, they sound very different?
they are pretty different. They are pretty different. But yeah, I mean, I believe that as human beings, we all contain multitudes, and especially as it relates to career paths, I think they're becoming far less linear in this day and age. And you're not necessarily just going to have one occupation. I mean, look at you. You're an ER surgeon doing the podcast, doing a million different things that that you're passionate about and love. And I think that's kind of what makes the era that we're living in right now very interesting.
It is unique. And
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought when I was. I think the vision when I was a kid was, med school, do all this, be a doctor, and that was kind of the end of the career story.
Yeah.
Then you get into it, and it's like, yeah, that's great, but what's next? I want
Yeah,
something else.
what's
There's
next?
This,
Yeah.
there's this void, and let's jump into the moment.
Yeah, let's do it. So yeah, we had a great preamble for this because your question to me is how do you go from this very sort of marked out path of being an entertainment lawyer to taking on this enormous creative side of yourself as well. And the creative part of me has always been there. When I went to school at USC, for instance, I was a screenwriter and I was being represented by one of the biggest talent agencies in town, CAA, and they were trying to help me package my scripts and putting actors and directors and everyone in place. And that's honestly what I thought my career path was going to be.
You thought you were going to be a writer.
I thought I was going to be a writer, yeah. And it wasn't until I finished law school and I was actually a club promoter for a year and a half. And my parents looked at me and they were like, I mean, what are you doing with
That's
your
our
life?
boy.
We're oh so proud of this that we're seeing. Yeah.
That'll get you in for free with one drink. At the bar.
Exactly. It was 2 drinks for him, but but yeah, so like even with the law stuff, it wasn't always set in stone. And then one day my parents are like, well, you're turning down this enormous opportunity you have and kind of just diminishing your intellect by working in a field that really doesn't have much going for it.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
So you went to college. You went to USC.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
We talked about this.
Well, I went to 1 year of school at GW in DC, and 2 weeks into my first semester was 9/11, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So talk about life changing in a moment for a whole lot of people. That was certainly an
So
instance,
you came?
but
Did you come home because of that?
I did not, but it was kind of part of the totality of the experience of being away from home for the first time at age 17. I probably had never been alone by myself away from Los Angeles for a couple weeks before that point.
You were a freshman.
Yeah.
At 9/11
Yeah.
in George Washington in DC, across the country from home.
Across the country from home and about 10, 15 miles from the Pentagon, which was being attacked.
That's
that day.
scary.
Yeah, it was a little scary. But yeah, ultimately,
I bring up the SC thing because I went to Notre Dame. I don't know if we talked about that or not, but
you know what? I have seen that on your Instagram.
okay, you're still welcome here.
And you guys beat us this year. I will,
Wow.
I will freely admit that on the podcast.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're
But see, I was USC heyday. I saw 3 Heisman Trophy winners, and I saw Carson Palmer, Reggie Bush, since vacated Heisman, and Matt.
I love these asterisks you have. You guys had a dynasty, from
We
2000
did.
whatever.
The Pete Carroll years.
I think
yeah,
you beat us like
absolutely.
9 years in a row. I hated that more than anything.
What about
Pete Carroll.
the Matt Liner,
The Bush push?
The Bush push.
Oh,
yeah.
we knocked you off.
Yeah.
It was such a joke into that game.
That was an incredible.
You know what?
Game.
And this is
That was
where
an
this is
incredible
when
game.
I
Yeah.
hated Matt Leinart. He was on College Game Day Final that day.
Oh, wow.
Or no, Pete
Carroll
This was Pete Carroll, and Pete Carroll goes, "You know what? What was supposed to happen today happened today." And I was like, "You cheated, and that was not what was supposed to happen today." Whatever. We could talk about this for a while. We did beat you this year. We also beat you the last 2 years.
Last 2 years, yeah. No, we've been struggling a little bit the last couple years.
You'll get it back. Too much talent.
Of course. And
I've seen a lot of USC games in the Coliseum where you've pounded us.
Yes.
So I'll enjoy it. Wow.
Do you go every year?
Every year. Notre Dame plays in California every year, either Stanford or SC.
And you go to either one of those.
Yeah.
That's great.
All right, sorry, I don't want to get.
we're getting.
We could get off on that too
Yes.
far. So, but here, this was my question: was when you, roundabout
As we circuitously.
you went to
make our way
college
back.
to be a screenwriter, and then
And that wasn't even
be a writer.
That wasn't. Yeah, I was an American literature major, so it wasn't even necessarily my emphasis. It was just something that I was doing on the side, which, as you see, is kind of a common theme.
So you went for literature.
Yeah.
So the first question is, how did you end up going to law school?
Yeah. So my dad is an entertainment lawyer, and he's been one for over 40 years. And when I was going through that experience of kind of not channeling my energy in a positive way and just going out every night and having...
When you were a club promoter?
Yeah, having
Is that how you feel about that time? I mean, I'm sure it was fun.
It was fun, but yeah, it was like a job or a social life masquerading as a job, So it was.
You felt like what? You were meant to do more. You could do more. It just was not.
Absolutely.
You weren't living up to your potential kind of
thing.
thing.
And I was using it as a vehicle to write. So I was taking all the spare time that I had from that to write more screenplays. And I was actually about ready to produce, direct, and act in one of these features that my buddy and I had cobbled together the financing for.
Nice.
And my parents called me one day and they're like, "Yeah, this isn't gonna fly. You're going to law school and you're gonna like it." And I had taken the LSATs at that point. I had acceptances. But I was sort of very much dragged kicking and screaming into this world, so much so that my first semester of law school, I was going from law school every day to set to film the movie that I...
You were still doing it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So that was both and.
Both and.
You didn't say no to your...
Yeah, which is very, very much my I thrive on doing it all and doing multiple things at once and tapping into the different parts of me. And yeah, so even we're slowly moseying the way to my moment, but yeah, I've always just wanted to do it all. And so my moment comes obviously many years after this. I think it was, I've been an entertainment lawyer for 10 years now. Actually,
you went to law school 22 or 3 or 4 or something?
Yeah, I was...
early 20s.
22 when I started law school.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, so I was done by the time I was 25. And that whole movie project actually ended up taking the entirety of law school, because if you've ever been involved in an indie project, there's some definite ups and downs involved in the experience. So yeah.
What's the movie called?
It's called The Diet Life. And fortunately fortunately and unfortunately for all the listeners and watchers out there, I think I have the only copies that are...
Oh, I wanted to check it out.
Well,
it doesn't
you're more
live
than
on
welcome.
YouTube somewhere?
It doesn't.
Can I put it on my YouTube channel?
You can.
No, I'm serious.
Well, yeah. I mean, we're doing the plug for it, so why not? Yeah.
Or do you have a YouTube channel and put it on there?
we have a YouTube channel for the band. We'll get into that later, but yeah, I would love for it to live there. That'd be great.
I would be honored.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
It did win the 2009 Bel Air Film Festival, so
It needs to live somewhere.
it should live somewhere.
This
it
is
should
how
live
I'm gonna
somewhere.
blow up. Right here. What's the name of it again?
It's called The Diet Life.
The Diet Life.
And it was sort of this very Bret Easton Ellis-esque tale of this model in Los Angeles that had fallen into the throes of anorexia and bulimia, and when her family gets into trouble, she has to get back into modeling, even though it's the most self-destructive sort of lifestyle for her. And she meets up with my character, who's a personal trainer that's helping her supposedly get in shape, and then they have a very mutually destructive romance.
I can't wait.
Yeah, Get ready for it.
That sounds perfect.
Yeah.
We're slowly getting to your moment.
Slowly.
I like that. I'm gonna go
slowly.
Usually I'm just like, give me the moment now. But this is good.
We're doing a little foreplay here
But
first.
I want
yeah.
to. We're heightening the moment. But I want to pause for a second and just you made a movie in law school. Like, can we? I have plenty of friends that went to law school. It's hard enough to do all the work in law school. I can't imagine. I mean, and how did you do that? And this really drives home for me.
Yeah.
Like, you really do want to do both. You really do try to do
really,
it all. Like, this is
yeah.
part of who you are.
Yeah.
It's kind of nuts.
It's a little nuts. It's a little nuts, I guess.
I mean, how
but
hard was
it
that?
seems so normal to me. Honestly, it wasn't that hard. And I'd love to say that it was like this really harrowing experience, but it kind of wasn't. It was just, it felt very natural. Granted, there are some days you get to set and you're like, I don't even feel like I can go on camera today.
Yeah.
Like,
You were in it.
yeah, I was
Were you
in
the
it.
trainer guy?
I was the trainer guy, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you directed this too?
Yeah. I co-directed it with my buddy. Yeah.
I can't wait to watch this.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it.
So is it kind of like, I mean, I have a lot of questions about this.
Yeah.
Was it kind of like you said now, where you have law during the day and you have your music stuff after, and they kind of went together and helped you?
It was very much like that, although I would say that in terms of being a law student, I very much was doing. Well, law school is very interesting, and we can compare and contrast it to your med school experience. But with law school, or at least the one that I went to, your entire grade is staked on your like midterm and final, but it's mostly weighted towards the final. And
it's writing. It's all how
it's
you write on a topic or whatever.
Right. It's like it's a 2-hour test, and you get prompts or whatever, and then you get basically what are fact patterns, and then using that fact pattern, you apply the law that you've learned through the course of the semester to that situation. And I kind of just figured out, I was like, I can pretty much just study for those 2 weeks before
you learned how to play the game.
I learned how to play the game. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, and a lot of it, law school movies are sort of famous for dramatizing the moment where the professor will scan out like on the entire audience and the students and pick on someone and be like, Mr. Wallerstein, tell us what happened. Tell us the facts in Burchett versus Connor.
The state of Oregon.
Yes, exactly. And honestly, I was either good at BSing or I was good at not really caring how I looked in those particular moments, because most of the time I hadn't read the case.
But so these are real moments, and you did get pulled out.
Yeah.
Potentially humiliated.
Potentially humiliated, but knowing that it wasn't going to have any like permanent reflection on my actual grade.
But you actually did okay and
I was
performed. So
yeah,
to speak.
I was top 20% of my law school class still.
You learned how to play the game.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
Yeah.
And you learned enough to get to the next stage of entertainment lawyer or whatever you needed to know.
Exactly. And one of the things that I knew about law school going into it is that it gives you just a general education. And once you start actually working in your field, in your occupation, that's when you gain the actual expertise.
Yeah. Medicine is similar.
Similar.
I mean,
with
there's certainly
specializing.
moments where we're pimped, right? Put in my place. And attending's just like, they always know more, so they can keep asking questions until they find out what you don't know. And then
Yeah.
you're like, "Woo," and then you go back and read, and that's part of the process.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the same way, like you get a general education for 4 years, couple years of books, couple years in the hospital. Then you get a residency of 3 to 7 years of you're doing it.
Yeah.
And it's an apprenticeship for a long period of time.
Right.
And then you get out, and it was really a couple more years of like, oh wow, I'm doing this alone. But like I've been out for 10, 11 years. Looking back now, it's like, it really took me about 5 years.
Before you even feel comfortable. And
Before I was like, I
got this.
Yeah,
I got
it was
this.
like
Yeah.
2 years where I was like,
Right.
okay, I'm not dangerous anymore. But like 5 years where I'm like, okay, I'm good at this, and then now it's, just you always try to keep up and keep sharp.
I feel like even now I get more and more comfortable and just in my zone and in my
your expertise
in
and
your
the word
best
is mastery.
position.
I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah. You're getting your Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hours in. Yeah.
It's really mastery.
Yeah.
And that
absolutely.
part's, you get there, and it's fun.
Yeah. So to segue, so you mentioned this sort of five.
You're better at segues than I am. You're really good at them. You are.
I'm just trying to get. I know that I'm moving slowly on my moment, so I want to make sure that we're
doing
definitely
great.
get there. Okay.
No, we're doing great.
Perfect. So yeah, about that 5-year point where you gain that comfort level in just doing the daily of what your job entails. My moment is it's over over a week, but I woke up one morning and I had a message from somebody that was basically my friend during my club promoting days. And he had kind of followed on the sidelines because another thing I did when I was in law school was I had never touched a piano before, but I taught myself how to play.
Because you didn't have enough going on between law school and your movie, so you taught yourself how to play piano.
Yeah.
Wow.
It seemed like a good thing to do.
No kidding. Keep going.
Yeah. So, and he had a base level knowledge that I had started playing, and I was always like posting a few things here or there on social media. And one day I get a message from him, and he says we're playing this huge show. His band at the time was called Pierce the Arrow, and Braden, who's my bandmate now, he says, Pierce the Arrow, we're playing this huge show in Lake Arrowhead. We're opening up for Martha Davis and the Motels. They were a huge 80s band, had a couple gold records back in the 80s, some big singles. Wow. And we're opening up for them, and we need someone to play keyboard for us. And would you like to do it? And I remember it was so early in the morning that he sent the message, and it was one of those things where you're sort of just like one eye open reading one of your Facebook messages on your phone. And I thought about it for a couple hours, and then I'm like, why not? And so that week, I went over to his place every night. I had to learn all the songs. We actually came up with parts for all the songs because not all the songs that they were doing even had keyboard parts. So it was this crazy crash course in getting ready to do this thing that I had never... I performed before, and I sang when I was younger and did musical theater, but I had never even played piano or keyboard in front of maybe more than like 3 or 4 people before. And suddenly I'm being asked to do it in front of thousands of people. and to have this insane, just feet to the fire process.
Was it a week? How much time did you have?
Yeah, it was a week lead.
You had 1 week before performing for thousands.
Yeah.
Something you'd never done.
Something I had never done before. Yeah. And to add to that, he said, "Oh yeah, so like also one of our bandmates is in the show Vanderpump Rules, the reality show, so they're going to be shooting a lot of this for the show." I'm like, sounds about right, you know. Yeah,
even bigger deal
yeah.
and pressure. And...
Yeah, not that really that was more of an aside rather than something that was more overwhelming. But yeah, so I suddenly went from being a lawyer and kind of not having that creative outlet for a while that I always had.
You weren't doing something on the side. You didn't have a movie or a script.
No.
You weren't playing a ton. Or...
No, and yeah, this was the first time in my life that I didn't have that really.
So there was this space there.
Yeah. So it ended up working out.
So hang on. So you're going through this week, and you're just like, how many hours per day are you like trying to cram in, learning all this music and jiving with the band and everything?
Yeah. So a lot of it was, it actually laid the foundation to we have a 2-man band right now, a 2-person project. And a lot of this like really laid the groundwork for that because most of it was just working with him. And we had, before we played our big show, we had one rehearsal at a rehearsal studio where it was going to be the whole band. And then,
who was in the whole band?
So there was the lead singer who's my current bandmate now. He also plays guitar.
What's his name?
Braden Pierce.
Okay.
Then there was on guitar, there was Tom Sandoval. He was the one in Vanderpump Rules, and then there were a couple of other sort of hired hands as well, like I was in this.
You had a lead singer, lead guitar, a couple other guitars, drums, and keyboard.
Drummer and keyboard. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's intense.
Yeah.
So you do all this preparation, and then take me to that night. Like, I want to know how you were feeling as you're walking.
Oh, yeah.
Like, were you like really just crazy nervous? Or...
So I'd say so it was in Lake Arrowhead, and they have like a summer stage there where they do a lot of these shows. This was in May of 2013 now, right before Memorial Day. And
6.5 years ago.
Yeah. And so yeah, it was this big summer stage. But perhaps the most interesting thing about it, we were actually staying with like one of the managers that was putting this on. He had like a place out there, and I remember I drove up with Braden, and it was so foggy. We almost, honestly, like even with the fog lights on, couldn't really see where we were going. It was this crazy windy path.
A metaphor, if you will.
But yeah, it was actually like pretty ominous. And by the time we got there, when we had almost driven off like the road, I think multiple times, we were like, wow. After going through that, I feel like the show's gonna be a breeze.
Really?
Yeah.
You were more scared of the drive.
Yeah, I was more scared of the drive.
So you arrived there and you're relieved, and then...
Yeah, and we had a night just kind of to hang out, and then the show was gonna be the next night. So we had a night just kind of like getting settled into this cabin where we were staying. Literally, I stayed in this room that was kind of like a makeshift treehouse, actually.
Right.
And I was like, how surreal is this? Like, a week ago, would I have ever thought that I'd be staying in this like makeshift treehouse about to play to thousands of people, having never done that before in my life?
No, never.
Yeah.
I want you to describe to me, if you remember.
Yeah.
I want what it felt like walking out on the stage, sitting down and doing this for the first couple songs. And
yeah, honestly, so the way what I would liken it to is almost, because I played sports growing up, and I was so locked in with the routine of getting ready for a big, soccer was my main sport, so getting ready for a big match. And honestly, it kind of felt a lot like that, where you just had to like get yourself to the level of energy that you sort of imagined in your mind. So it was a lot of jumping around. We did a couple of rehearsals beforehand, and coming out on stage and hearing the applause, and yeah, it's like, oh, I've prepared a week for this, and you kind of just lock in. And as soon as I got on stage, kind of the nerves went away, because it's like, okay, the anticipation
You felt the calm almost.
yeah, the anticipation is so intense and severe for something like this.
Yeah.
But now, like, once you're here and it's just you and something you've practiced a number of times now, it's just like, okay, there's a job to be done. And maybe you have similar experiences with that in the ER. Yeah.
Maybe, but not the first time.
Yeah.
You know, like, so I'm impressed that you're walking out, you're on the stage, you're like, oh no, I got this.
I got this.
I can do this.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, there's a first time you do every procedure alone on your own, whatever, and there's there's you know a excitement, but then a nervousness, and they're kind of balanced and whatever.
Right.
I would not describe some of my first times as, oh. Then I got the chest tube in my hand, and the calm came over me as I placed it into his thoracic cavity, like, no. And I put it in there, and as the patient screamed in pain, I was hoping I wasn't stabbing it through a major artery. Like, that's more the
yours is a life and death matter. I will say, like, I would have just dealt with perhaps some embarrassment as opposed to, which can feel like you're dying at the moment. But yeah,
hang on just a second. Do we need to stop?
It's halftime.
Okay, cool.
Can we finish this thought
Yeah,
and then
just trying to
push pause? I know, I got you. The timer was great last time.
I
think I don't mean to compare those two things like they're. I think there's similarities of intense, stressful performances.
Right.
That's kind of an equalizer. I don't know. I'm just impressed.
Well, thank you.
So you got
Larry.
So you got the calm come over you.
Yeah.
And then, like, what did it feel like? Were you like ripping it? You're like, this is amazing. Like, this is my new
honestly
thing. Or like,
once the calm comes over you, then it almost becomes a blur, and then the experience is over before you know it. Mm-hmm. And you're just like so locked in that while I have the memory of being out there, the moment to moment just kind of it
went so fast.
Yeah, and it fades away. Yeah.
Did you have at some point during or after that this like reflection or epiphany where you're like, this is going to be a thing for me? Like, this was awesome. Or
yeah. I did, but also I didn't think I realized to the extent of what it might be. I was like, okay, I'm doing this thing where I'm kind of like this hired hand for this show, for this band, but it took a little bit longer for the idea to catalyze that I should be the one writing songs and having my own, having more ownership over the project.
You didn't know at that time what it was going to turn into.
Correct.
This was just like, oh wow, I
wow.
plugged in for these guys. Wow,
Yeah.
I did great. We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. Yeah, this was this incredible rush. I'm so excited that I did this, but maybe it's just going to be a one-off experience. Yeah.
So then the question is, so what happened next? Okay, so let's jump back into this moment.
Yes. Glasses off.
That's what I'm gonna do.
Okay.
I wouldn't.
Mask on, mask off.
You do whatever's right for you. So you were out of law school for 5 years.
5 years.
You were doing the entertainment lawyer thing. You had this space that wasn't filled with some artistic screenwriting, movie, music, whatever. You get plugged in on a whim a week before this big show to play keyboards.
Yeah.
Sounds like you crushed it.
Yeah, I did well enough.
It went really well, but at the time, and it sounds like so the question we have is, well, what happened next? Because it sounds like at the time you were like, oh, this was fun. Like, we'll see what happens. Maybe.
Yeah. So what was interesting was this is when the Vanderpump Rules of it all kind of kicked into gear. And the producers of the show were like, well, that was a really cool segment, why don't we kind of do this on a larger scale if this is going to be the new...
What was Vanderpump Rules? I don't...
So Vanderpump Rules is actually a very... Even now, it's kind of taken on a life of its own, but it's a very popular reality show on Bravo.
Okay.
And
what's the premise of the show?
The premise of the show, Lisa Vanderpump, who's a big sort of entrepreneur, she had a restaurant called Sir. And Sir is in West Hollywood, and Vanderpump Rules kind of chronicled the lives of the bartenders and servers at Vanderpump Rules. And now
6 or 7 years ago.
6 or
Is
7
it
years
still going on?
Still going, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Still
And that's
going,
what it's called,
yeah.
Vanderpump Rules?
Yeah, Vanderpump Rules, yeah.
So these guys were at your show because which guy was in?
Tom Sandoval was our guitarist at the time.
And he also worked at there, or how?
Yeah, he worked at, I don't know the exact linkage, but he worked at Sir and got offered to do the show, and yeah, it chronicled the lives of all.
So he was a character in the show at that time.
Correct.
So that TV show comes to your performance, and
Yeah.
then how did that impact?
Yeah,
for you?
So I have a house in Westwood where I've thrown a lot of parties before, and it was coming up on Memorial Day, and the show and we, I guess, mutually decided that we were going to throw this enormous Memorial Day party at my place with, at the time we were called Pierce the Arrow performing. Mm-hmm. And
So at your place, and you guys are going to perform.
yes.
Now you're part of this thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, it was super fun. I don't think my friends that showed up at the door and then found out that they had to sign a release to be on camera were as amused by it as we necessarily were. But
This is how we do parties now, guys. It's fine. It's fine. Just like it's nothing.
everyone was like, "Oh, can this get any more LA? You're really making me sign a release to go to your party, dude. Come on." So yeah,
The answer is yes.
the answer
Sign
is
it
yes.
and get
The
in.
answer is yes. So it was funny. So after that, and it was a whole thing, and we shot all these scenes, and my band. After that, it almost went completely on hold because we didn't really know what the next step was. It's like, okay, we've done these couple performances, but where does that leave us? And what ended up shaking out over a number of months from here was that Braden and I decided that we didn't necessarily want the politics of being involved in a reality show and having a band that had that many parts, and we were really enjoying the creative relationship that we had forged in this time period. And we then, at that point, broke off and formed our own two-piece band.
See the singer?
Yes, yeah.
That sounds like that was a little complicated there, kind of breaking off from the band.
It was a little complicated, and yeah, it was something that definitely took a number of months to effectuate the divorce from what they had going on.
You felt like creatively, the two of you together, that was the thing. And
Yeah, it didn't seem like we had as good of a vibe as a quintet as
you guys
we did.
tried, and
Yeah,
it was just
yeah.
better when it was the. How did you know?
Honestly, it kind of the seed was planted when we were doing those initial sessions where I was just learning the music, and we realized that we had just such wonderful rapport, kind of just coming up with my parts, figuring out the arrangements, tweaking things here and there, and it was just very seamless. So
That just kind of naturally, you guys were creative together,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that just kind of
yeah.
felt.
Sometimes, it just works the musical chemistry that we had together, and yeah, from that point, it was very easy to envision how we would do that as just a two-piece, but on a grander scale.
And something was lost when you added the other members with the rest of that, and you're like,
yeah,
oh, we
but
don't have this.
which is awkward for me because I'm the Johnny Come Lately, just off the street. So
You're stealing you stole the lead singer of the band.
I'm a band wrecker.
Yeah.
I'm a band wrecker.
yeah, you were.
Yeah. Yeah, not good. But it turned out well in the end. So,
Sounds like that. It sounds like there was something there the two of you knew that.
yeah, yeah. And we had been friends before, but had never had really explored anything super creatively. So it was when this catalyzed, and we just kind of knew that it was a great combo.
Did the reality TV thing help? Did you get any promo out of that? You said you went away from that after a while.
Actually, all the footage that we filmed in connection with that party never aired.
On their show.
Yeah, yeah. Which part of the reason was because there was this band kind of divisiveness and rebellion, and it was
Some people didn't want it out there, or what was the problem?
I don't think that Braden and I necessarily wanted to go that route. I think we preferred maybe doing it in a little bit of a more organic way rather than having just this platform that was kind of associated with something else and trying to shoehorn our musical sensibilities into that.
Didn't fit, huh?
It didn't feel authentic. So yeah, part of our rationale for forming our two-piece was that we kind of wanted to distance ourselves from that.
Tell me a little bit more. I do want to keep going, get the story move forward. But I also want to pause for a second and ask a little more about, like, and for people that haven't experienced this and don't know, like, again, how did you know when you had something there compared to times that you didn't before? We're talking about the chemistry between
music-wise?
Yeah. What is that? Describe that thing a little more. The magic, you know?
Yeah, yeah. It's actually interesting. I honestly didn't know how good I had it with Braden until we kind of even had like a little rift. Maybe this is 2 or 3 years ago, and it was very brief. But at that point, I tried collaborating with some other people, and it clicked, and I was like, wow, that's that same exact experience that I had when everything wasn't quite working. When we had the full 5-piece band.
When it's not working, what do you see, observe, feel? How do you know it's not working?
You're just not on the same page, and it's one of those things where you just kind of know it, you're there, and you just feel like unfulfilled. And also that you just don't see eye to eye, and you're coming up with these potential song avenues and riffs and things like that, and they don't go anywhere, and then you find yourself trying to justify what you were doing rather than just sort of pivoting to something that,
letting it go, and just saying that's not it.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting thing. Part of me's talking to your linear lawyer brain, and then part of me's talking to your creative brain, and I'm like, I want to see if the lawyer brain can put more words on. I mean, it's like trying to describe kind of magic. You know when you got it, and then you know when you don't have it. But like, what is it? It's like, I had it with them. I'm like, you had what? What? You know, and relationship, rapport.
Yeah. It's just that it's that seamless flow, and just. And part of it is the feeling of openness that you have to really share something that is ultimately very personal without the fear of being judged.
Kind of a musical intimacy, artistic intimacy almost.
Very, very much so. Very much so, because I would find that when I was in these kind of unfulfilling collaborations, you're almost holding a big piece of you back. Because ultimately any creative thing that you do, like it's you're bearing your heart, you're bearing your soul.
It's a good motion.
It's also, is that the Superman motion too?
Well, I thought you were cracking your chest open. I think Superman is more like.
Okay.
Very
the wrong orientation.
Like revealing your inner,
Yeah.
It's interesting. As you're talking, I'm coming to appreciate the relationship, intimacy in the relationship.
Yeah, and it's something that I have an incredible gratitude for, because it was certainly happenstance that he just hit me up that one day because he knew that I happened to play keys. And then
What a moment.
Here
Why
we
did
are,
he why did he
6
pick
years
you?
later.
Now I almost wish I had him there too to give his half of the moment. where he was
maybe
like,
you can have him on. Maybe you can have him on and delve a
that'd
little
be
bit
fun.
into that question. Yeah,
that would be fun.
Yeah, we can do.
He'll come on and he'll be like, we had nobody. I was desperate. I saw that guy play. Like, he hit a couple keys once on Instagram. I was like, get him in. He can just hold one of them there like this.
It's like, worst comes to worst, we could just turn his speakers off and just have him pantomime it.
Oh yeah, bro. I don't know what happened with the keys. You did great. Pull the plug out. That would be interesting. Okay, I'll stop interrupting you. So you transition through this stuff and you figure out you and him got a thing.
Yeah.
And then like, so what happened with that, and how do you integrate that now with your life as a lawyer and what you're doing?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, we had this period where we sort of extricated ourselves from the situation that we were in band-wise, and then we had to come up with a name for our new project, and oh god, that was a process.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, that was a process.
What were some of your first names that you wanted to?
I really liked. We kind of have this like California chill wave vibe. So one of my favorite names that we were debating whether or not it was going to be Kingdoms or the name that I wanted was Infinity Pools.
Isn't that from? Why am I thinking of Avengers? An infinity pool. Just those things with the big view, and you look at them.
Yeah.
He was laughing at me. Infinity War is what I was thinking. Shut up over there. They're laughing at me. I like Infinity Pool.
Yeah.
It's very visual.
That was an idea we had. I'm trying to think of some.
He wanted Kingdoms.
Kingdoms, yeah. Well, we both mutually decided on that, but
that's the name.
That's the name, yeah.
Kingdoms.
Yeah, Kingdoms.
Infinity
Pools.
Pool, not war. Oh, pools.
Pools. With. Okay. Just like it wouldn't be an Infinity War. It's Infinity Wars.
All right, so you get through the name. So
the naming process? Yeah, it was very difficult.
You just flip a coin?
Ultimately, like anything, it's kind of a compromise, but you work with the best of what you're mutually interested in and something that you can settle on. And yeah, I mean, that's a huge thing. But ultimately, we were like, we want something that's one name, that's easy to say, that feels grand, that has some staying power. And yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So
how long have you guys been at it? 6 years?
Yeah, it's been about 6 years.
And what are you doing now?
So now I'm super excited about all our releases. We had a really probably my favorite song that we've ever released last month. It's called Senses. It's out everywhere. I'm sure that's going to be...
Senses by Kingdoms.
By Kingdoms.
Check it out.
Yeah.
I will check it out.
Yeah.
So you don't remember the exact date that his is slotted for. Do you have some kind of performance or whatever in mid-December, January that we can time this with to help promote you, or like a week before that or something?
We're probably not going to, I think our next shows are going to be in early 2020, or we might do some releases before the end of the year. But
so you don't have anything planned, but...
No.
It would have been good to promote that.
Yeah, we would have done a big holiday party, but I don't think we're going to do that anymore.
Like January or February?
Yeah. You can even hold it till then if you want to.
So look for, and you guys will perform in LA. I want to come to a show. So it sounds like you're going to be performing in early 2020.
Yeah.
I have to tell people to look for it. And we're not done yet, but they can follow you. Where can they know more about the band?
Yeah, the band is Kingdoms Universe on Instagram. That's probably the best.
I will follow Kingdoms Universe on Instagram. Can people follow you there too?
They can. You can follow me personally at Vanity Shades.
So that's where we'll have them go to you.
Yeah.
So look there for 2020 performances.
Yes.
I will come and watch you play.
Absolutely. It'll be
fun.
A blast. Yeah.
So you're still, so here are the questions, is like, do you want to get out of law? Is that like, would that be a dream thing? Or you're like, no, I want to do both?
Honestly, I want to do both. The law stuff definitely scratches a particular itch as well, and I love the intellectual side and the problem solving. And
I'm sorry, I still have my glasses. Just hit me. You like the intellectual side and the problem solving? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So yeah, part of my law job is just, it's so interpersonal, and it's so intellectual. It's so rooted in just actually figuring out creative solutions to business problems.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Tell me a little more. So, I don't know much about entertainment law.
Yeah.
Teach me
lowdown?
some things. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a very small subset of law, and it practically only exists in Los Angeles and a little bit in New York.
When you say entertainment, is that like, you said writers, directors, what? Entertainment is not sports.
No, I mean, that could
Contracts.
be an aspect of it, but the focus of my firm has always been television and film.
Okay.
And mainly, actually, the core has been writer, executive producers in television.
Not even actors.
So-called showrunners. Yeah, we do have some actor clients and have represented great actors over the year. But yeah, sort of the specialty of our business has been these showrunners who are either in charge of the writing rooms and staffs of television shows, or they create the shows themselves, and sometimes both. And what we do for them is anytime that there's a deal that's sourced by their agent, by their manager, that they get personally, then we step in to negotiate that. And so yeah, we're working with the studios to.
So you're not representing the studio. You're representing.
We're representing the talent,
the writer,
or
producer, whatever.
Exactly, the creative person.
Getting them what they deserve for their
craft.
Yeah.
And obviously that's something that I have a unique window into as a creative person myself, so I understand a lot of the travails of what they're feeling in terms of getting a deal that reflects what your worth is. Mm-hmm. So that's something that I'm very passionate about, obviously.
Imagine it could be easy to get pushed around by the big guys.
It can be
without representation.
Exactly. Yeah, but
you mentioned you like kind of the creative aspect of working with somebody to make a deal. Give me an example of.
Yeah, a lot of the times you hit major roadblocks in any sort of deal-making process, and it's like, how do we give the other side what they're wanting while still preserving what are the main tenets of what my client wants out of this given situation? And sometimes it's coming up with creative ways that aren't monetary to compensate them.
Like what?
Well, the two most emotional issues in any deal that you ever do for someone are the money and the credit. So a lot of the time, if the money's not there, the credit becomes of the utmost importance. Or
executive producer. How do you
quantify
credit or whatever?
That's so interesting. So the hierarchy is actually different in television than it is in features, which people might not know this, but the highest level of producer on a television show is the executive producer, but the highest level of producer in a movie is actually the produced by or the producer credit, rather than, if you get an executive producer credit on the film side, it's actually a lesser credit.
And then you said something, so I'm thinking of the credits as they're rolling, and something will say produced by.
Yes,
that's the top dog thing. I wouldn't know that.
Other than the actors or the directors, but yeah, the top
within the production.
Yeah, the top producer credit, actually is different from television to film, which is a fun little fact that.
Interesting. online stuff, YouTube, people making their own content changed what you do?
Yeah, we live in this universe now that's just so vast. I mean, the big dogs that have come into the entertainment sphere, for instance, Netflix, have set off this domino effect where no one wants to sell to Netflix anymore because initially all the big studios, the Disneys, the Foxes of the world, they're now merged, but they gave their content to Netflix for little or nothing because they just saw it as found money and as an extra monetary source. And now Netflix used all of that content to build up their own platform and then launch their own originals.
Right.
And it was a Trojan horse that they never saw coming. So now for instance,
So now they're a threat to these other
Correct.
big production
Correct.
companies because they were able to use their stuff to get people to watch.
Right. And for instance, in November, Disney launched their own streaming service called Disney Plus.
That's where that Star Wars movie is on.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
how I saw that.
Yeah, the Mandalorian. Yeah, I
Right.
believe. Yeah. So it's fascinating how they've set off this. Netflix has set off this arms race now,
Yeah.
where all the entities, the Disneys of the world. Warner Brothers is going to launch one called HBO Max, which is going to be their streaming service. CBS has All Access. NBC is launching the Peacock network. And they're all trying to, since the audience and the viewership is now spread among these streaming sources.
Amazon Prime,
yes,
Netflix,
as opposed to
whatever,
the
Hulu.
traditional network and
Right.
cable stations. The landscape is completely transformed.
So now you have your own exclusive NBC streaming, HBO
Right,
streaming,
right.
whatever. Oh, you want this, $10 a month, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So it's like they're all using the Netflix model now.
Yeah.
To have their own thing. So how does that shake down to what you do?
So there's more buyers, but a lot of these new buyers that are in the space, they're tech companies essentially. So entertainment has never been their core business.
Amazon.
Yeah. So in making deals with them, there's actually like a little bit of a learning curve.
For you or for
No,
them?
for them, because they don't necessarily know what the custom and practice in the industry is, or they just want to dictate a new custom and practice that's completely far afield from the way that it's been done for.
Sounds like Amazon.
Yeah,
Bezos is like, I think we'll do this now because we can.
Right, and isn't that the whole point of a disruptive technology? So
Do you find that difficult to work with, or
it's very difficult. As I was saying, there's more deals to be made out there. There's more outlets for creative content, but the deals themselves are so much more difficult to make. I feel like I'm putting so much more time and energy into each individual deal because of the makeup of what the industry looks like now.
What do these guys want, the Amazons? How does that differ from what a traditional production company would want?
Well, in Amazon's case, they give you Prime Video as part of the Prime service. They're just trying to sell more products, and it's something that gives them an added bell and whistle to add on to their whole product that they're offering. Netflix just wants entertainment domination. They want every single eyeball on Netflix programming as opposed to any other source, and especially not any traditional source.
Interesting.
But
So how does that shake out when you're dealing with them and you're trying to make a deal knowing that they have slightly different objectives in using, video content?
Yeah, that doesn't really change the process so much for me, but it's always something to keep in focus, especially for your client, that this landscape is just very different, and you just have to be cognizant of what the different structures are.
Where's it going from here?
Wow, I wish I knew.
In 1 minute.
I'd be a very rich man if I knew where it's going next, and I don't think that anyone even 5 to 10 years ago could have envisioned that it was going to this place.
Crazy, right?
Some of the next frontiers that could maybe become a lot more viable, VR. So virtual reality, and
I feel like I've been hearing about that for a while, but
and
it's
then
like
augmented reality. I feel like those are going to increasingly play a big part, because especially capturing a young audience, you really need that engagement and the feeling like they're the star or they're part of it.
Interesting.
So if I had to place money down, it would be on that becoming increasingly prominent.
So let's come back to you, lawyer, musician. Where to from here for you?
Yeah.
More of the same. Still keep your day job as a lawyer. Keep doing music and
more of the same for now. More of the same for now. We have a lot of exciting releases coming on the music side, and I feel like we're really hitting our stride in terms of what our sound is, and taking it to that next dimension. So just really excited about that. A lot of personal stories are going into a lot of the tracks that we have coming up.
well, the heart meaning.
Yeah, little bit of that opening again.
That's so true.
Yeah.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
I really am looking forward to. I will come and watch you play for sure.
I would love that.
2020.
I would love that. 2020.
You'll have to let us know
2020,
when it's out there.
Yeah, you could probably see us out in Silver Lake, I would imagine.
It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And what's the song that you want to? What do you want to promote now?
Yeah. So really,
people are going to see this probably December, January.
Right. So yeah, our latest release is called Senses, as I mentioned before. It's on every outlet. So your Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, which no one knows about, but apparently has the best.
Deezer? Do you guys know what Deezer
It's some
is?
European one that just has a great payout for artists. So support that one, guys.
Is that where you want us to go? I will
No.
open Deezer if you want me to for you.
I would love for everyone. Spotify is pretty much the main platform that
Do you get a little kickback from Spotify per listen or whatever?
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna put it on repeat.
Fractions of cent.
I'm gonna put it on repeat now for the next week.
Oh yeah. Please do, and everyone out there do that as well. We love that. Senses by Kingdoms, and yeah, there's a little fun Danish O in the middle of it. So that's the way you can find us.
I look forward to it, man. Thank you for coming. This was awesome.
Thank you so much, Larry. This is amazing. Yeah.
So we have a tradition on the show where the guest closes it out, and people can find you one more time.
Yes. So people can find me I'm at Vanity Shades on Instagram. That's the best place. I'll respond to all my messages. Love to hear from you if you have any thoughts about how the interview went, or you listen to the music
and give them some feedback.
Yeah. And it spoke to you. Always happy to talk to people. And our band on Instagram
Kingdoms
is
Universe.
Kingdoms Universe
On Instagram.
Yeah.
Check them out there.
Yeah.
Close us out, brother.
Life can change in a moment. I'm so happy to have had the chance to speak with Larry a little bit about my experience in all my different pursuits, and I hope that everyone out there will realize that sometimes an opportunity is just a message away.
Hope you enjoyed today's show. Matt Wallerstein, check him out. Subscribe on Apple Podcast and the YouTube channel where all this is going to live. If you've got somebody, if you know somebody who has a great story and has a moment, reach out to me, Dr. Larry Burchett, on the social medias. We will see you next time.
And I saw the power that the judge had, and the power, if used appropriately, that could change lives. And at that moment, I realized that if I could be given that power, I could change lives for the better.